Hello everyone, this is Jay. I am back with some of my November pieces I've made in the previous videos. If you remember, I can't remember which episode, but I made the 12 squares with my November colors from my November palette, and these I used the purple in, and these were my favorite out of the ones I've done. And so I have 12 little squares there. And then I decided to go bigger with that same color scheme, and I did some larger squares. And so I picked out a couple of my favorites because I thought, there's no way I'm going to frame all these. I love making them, and I like tucking them aside. I have a little box over here that has the perfect slots to put these in and stack them up, and then they're there and ready when I need them. But I really love the way this particular one came out for November, this color scheme. And I got to thinking, I'd seen some videos on getting these little board books at the thrift store. These little hard books, children's books that have the real hard pages. And I thought, oh, I'd like to do some of those. So I picked some of these up last week. I actually got 4 of them that are this size. They were like 99 cents a piece. And I've been watching some videos on what people do. I couldn't figure out what they do with the spine, because the spine is on there like this, and when you open it, it pops open. Hang on, it's not attached right. When it pops open like this, and it makes the book not lay flat. And I want it to lay flat. And I thought this is the perfect size little book to create a display of my November pieces. And shoot, I'm missing a supply here. I'll get it in just a second. But I cut the spine off, this little piece that pops out when you open the book, because it kept it from opening flat. And I really want to be able to do it flat. And when I put the covers on, which I'm going to use the big squares for the covers, then I'm going to do a fabric wrap around the spine. This is one of my vintage fabrics I had cut earlier, I guess in October. And I thought it has the wonderful fall colors. And hang on, let me grab my other pieces I need. All right, here's my other pieces I need. My plan is to mount. You could paint these. If you're going to paint on these board books, I understand because they're glossy, you really need to scuff them up with some sandpaper first so the paint will stick good. But I'm not going to paint on them. I'm going to use I'm going to use some scrapbook squares that I cut. And I chose these two. I didn't want something with a lot of pattern. I needed something that would tie in with what I've done with the little squares, because I want the little square to be the focus. All my collage work is already done on the squares. The painting is done on the squares. I just need a pretty backing page. So the plan here is I've cut these scrapbook pages, which are kind of thick. I've cut them to where I can glue them one on each side. And then when the book closes, they'll be trimmed after they dry, because I'm going to glue them on. After the glue's dry, I'm going to trim them around this edge here, around the edges. But I've cut them just a little bigger so they'll extend off the page. And I'm going to glue them right up to the center line without going over that center line. And probably what I will do is some kind of my gold paint down the center. I might could get them pretty close to that center line, but I was planning on maybe going around the edges with my gold paint after they're all trimmed, and putting some gold paint down the center and getting that done before I mount my art squares. So that is the plan. And then I also have wax paper to put between these pages as they're drying from gluing. I am going to use this very sturdy Aleene's tacky glue here, and it should hold up just fine. And what I'm going to do is glue each one, and then in between the page, before I close it to go to the next pages, put the piece of wax paper so I can do the next one, and so forth. And I'll put a wax paper in between each one just in case any of the glue seeps out. And then after I've got the interior all done, that's when I will do the exterior. And I will do that in the same manner, except I'm going to glue the big sheet on the covers front and back, and I'm going to weight that. These are heavy because these have multiple layers of collage and paint. So these are thick and heavy, and I want them to dry as flat as possible. So I will glue these on here and weight them down with a heavy book until they're totally dry. Then I will trim them from around the edges. That's the plan anyway. And I'm not going to talk through a video on every bit of this process. So I thought I would just go ahead and video what I'm doing as I'm doing it and stop the video during drying time, but I'll speed it up with a little music so you can watch the process take place if you would like. But I think this will make a great little display book to show off my little November art bits squares I've made. And I'm going to try to center one on there. How I'm going to mount these are thick also. Normally I mount these with double stick tape so they'll stand out a little bit, but being this is in a book, I plan on mounting them flat. Same with the cover. I'm going to get it as flat and solid to that cover as I can. When I get ready to mount these, I will most likely use double stick tape and the glue. The double stick tape will hold it in place long enough for the glue to get good and dry. And I'll put the double stick tape on there and then just add a little glue. It's just an extra precautionary thing so it won't slide around when I push it down. Same with the covers. So that's the plan. And the first step is to work on the scrapbook pages and get those in order. And there are exactly in this little book, there is room for 12 little paintings, little abstract paintings. 2, 4, 6, 8. Wait a minute. Hang on. 1, 2. Let me make sure. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 6 of this color sheet, 6 of this color sheet, and they will go alternating, one on one side and one on the other. So I'm going to get those organized here like so. And I've cut these. The book is 5 inches one way and just a tad over 5 inches the other way. Because like everybody else, they probably can't measure straight either wherever this was printed. Just like me. So there we go. Everything's alternated and ready. These won't go on yet. They will be pushed aside, as will the covers, until I get this part done. This little spine piece, I can just throw that away. I trimmed that off using an X-Acto knife here along the edge where it was attached and along the edge right here. And then after everything is done, the fabric will be glued on here over the art to form this cover for the spine. And that's the plan anyway. I thought this went well. It goes good with this paper right here. And it goes good with some of the marks in these. So that's the spine. These are the pages. Here's my wax paper. And now I'm ready to get gluing inside the book. The cover will be last, so I will start with inside. In fact, I will probably start with the back, so that way I can flip them over that way. Just a personal preference. And we shall see how this project comes out to display my little mini paintings I did with my November palette. And I still have several of the larger ones left. If I do want to frame some of those, I can, or do something else with them. That's the whole point of this. Make the squares, put them aside, then later do something else with them. And here's the first ones I did with my November colors. And I like these as well, but I like the ones with the purple in them a little bit better for this project. So I'm not going to use these in the book. I may make another book at a future date with these, or I may integrate these in with something else. And they go in my little box there. All right, so we're ready to get started with some gluing. So I'm going to stop talking, get busy on this. I'll probably speed it up, put a little music for you so you can see how it all comes together. Okay, it is dry. I have pulled out my sheets of wax paper, and it's in pretty good shape. There's a few little wrinkles in there, and I definitely need to go trim it all up now. And what I will do is take it in there on my cutting mat and go with the X-Acto knife all the way around. Now, this one, that's the front and back cover, but these have two on each side. So they need to be trimmed up without me seeing the edge. So probably what I'm going to do right now is just go ahead with my little scissors and trim some of that down so I can get it underneath the other one. I don't know how I'm going to do this, honestly. I probably should have done one side at a time. See, this is a learning experience. This is a learning experience. It'd probably be better for me to pull one edge up and do one side and then push it down. And if I need to add a little more glue at the corner, I can. But I don't think it's going to work well with the scissors because I don't want to cut into the book. I'm trying to get this one edge here. See how nice and jagged that is? Yeah, I'm probably going to have to pull this edge up. Pull one edge up like so. Trim this edge. Trim this edge, then push this back down and then add a little bit more glue on there if I need it. I'm going to have to do that all the way around the sides. So I'm not going to video that because that's kind of a boring little feature, but it's all done pretty good. After I trim it with the X-Acto knife on the cutting mat, I have some sandpaper and I will sand across the edges on top and bottom just to make sure. And then I will do the outer covers and attach those. So let me go take care of trimming these up, and then I will be back to do the outer cover. Okay. I have trimmed it the best I can and sanded it, and I've got still got some rough edges there that I'm picking at, little frayed spots right here. So what is my lesson that I learned in doing this? I think what I learned is do one side at a time. Do this side, trim them, then do the other side, then trim it. Of course, that takes longer, and I didn't really want to take too long with this, so, but I've got it pretty good, except the middle here and the covers. I need to do the covers now. Now the covers are separate, one here and one here, so therefore those will be able to be trimmed a whole lot easier because it'll just be one side. So that was my lesson on this first book that I learned. Not sure how well my gold paint I intended to do there will do. In that crevice, I'm not sure if it will crack. But when I do that, I have to do one, let it dry, flip it, do the next one, let it dry, flip it, next one, and so forth, in order to keep that in order. So we'll see how that goes. Everything I do is a learning experience. I'm not claiming to be an expert on anything except on a few things. There's a few things I can do pretty good. I'm just taking you along with me as I use up some things in my studio and make some pretty little art pieces like this out of these things in my studio that I call art bits. And I would just like to make a book to showcase the ones I made in November. So now it's time to do the covers. And I'm going to have to do one, then lay it down flat, and then do the other one and put the books back on it. So the covers are going to be made of these, and this is a very, very thick paper. And I have to decide which one I want on the front, which one I want on the back. I really like this one. I think this one would be pretty for the front because it has more purple in it. I like this one because it says the daffodils, and I just thought that was neat. So I think I'm going to attach this one to the front of the book and this one to the back. And I'm going to go ahead and do the back one first. And I'm not too worried about it right there because I'm going to have this piece of fabric that's going to come over there. So I may come over just a little bit on that when I place this one. I'll probably come over the whole thing, but I'm not sure if it will open correctly. I guess there's one way to find out, and that's just to do it. So what I mentioned earlier was using double stick tape, which I have some here. And I'm not going to use my mounting tape I normally use when mounting my little mini paintings. But the double stick tape will help hold this in place while I squish technical word there, squish it down. And I'm going to put the tape and the glue on here and then place this. Squish it down, flip it over, then do the front cover of the book, and then put these big books back on top to let that glue set in good and flatten everything. So I'm going to take some double stick tape. It doesn't matter if you do glue and double stick tape, on the same thing. Well, I thought it was, because it's all going to stick. But this will just help hold it in place so it won't be sliding or popping up, I hope. So I'm probably going to come over that white area. Just going around the edges here. And then I'm going to put sort of a crisscross in the middle. And I'm going to add glue to this as well. I'm going to cover up all this stuff. Oops, I don't need that sitting there. So I'm going to put some glue definitely in the corners and around the edges the best I can, because I don't want this popping off. And you notice I'm using my fingers when I move the glue around. I'm actually dipping my finger in my water bucket that's sitting right next to me and getting the glue a little bit wetter. And this paper towel is wet right here too, so I can quickly wipe off my fingers. But this way it helps the glue move a little bit better. And actually I'm using both fingers there. And I didn't wet the other one. But what I'll do is I dip my fingers in the water and wash them off right away, because I don't want that glue setting on my fingers. Get all the way to the edge. And I'm kind of covered up the tape, but it's still there, and it will help. Now I'm going to dry my hands really, really well before I go press this on. And I'm going to use the wax paper. And I'm going to stand up to do this, so I can kind of position where I want it. I'm going to try to get it close to the edge, so that's one less edge I have to trim. All right, now I'll take the wax paper, and I use my fingers, hands, catalyst wedge, whatever. This is kind of textured, so I'm just going to use my hands, and I try to push around the edge a little bit to really secure it. Now I'm going to flip this, lay it down on that piece of wax paper, and I'm going to do the top one. And once again, I'm going to stick some tape on here in some different spots just to try to help secure it in case it tries to move, or in case I don't get enough glue. Nothing wrong with being a little extra cautious, especially with these heavy papers. If you don't have double stick tape, you can just do the glue. So let's put some glue on here. Definitely working it close to those edges. And then I just kind of do like this across there. And wet my fingers to start moving it around. And I try not to go over the edge. I do have another piece of paper towel here where I had one that was wet. So if I need to wipe some excess glue off the sides, I can, but I can just grab another piece. because I think I threw that first piece away. That's good, and all the way to the edges. And I'm gonna wash my hands off real quick. I try to get the glue off as soon as I can. And I also use my wet paper towel there and then dry real good. And I decided I want this one this direction. I don't want this one to be all the way to the, well, maybe I do, because I am going to have the spine on there. Let me just press it on there, line it up. I don't think my paper is cut straight, so I am going to scoot this one just a little. And then kind of press down around those corners and edges on this one. Get another wax paper. Like to use the wax paper so I don't mess up anything on the art in case something's on my hands. Now this one kind of slid off that wax paper, so I'm going to reposition. Yeah, it's sliding off of it. Reposition here. Just press down really good and use these heavy books and set it there for a little while, probably about 30 minutes or so, and I'll come back and check it. And then I'll trim those edges as well. So I will be back. Okay, it trimmed up really nicely. That is the way to do it. Do one side at a time on these pages instead of two like I did before. And that's really making a nice little book there. And these are the trimmings here that came off of these. And I keep all these because these can actually be used in other pieces and other things. And as add-ons or collage pieces, and they're so pretty. So I keep them. I have a basket that I keep my scraps in. And I'll put them in there in case I need a little strip of paper or something small. I'll have those handy. They're already made. I created those, so cool. So now I'm going to take this. I was going to use Posca, but I have a Copic of Korea Black. I think I'm going to try this one. I'm shaking it out here to make sure it's working right. And I'm just going to try to color inside the spine. This has a pretty fine tip on this one. And it kind of blends with the one paper that's darker. I'm trying to get deep in there where that book is showing through a little bit. And this is just me being picky because this is just for me. I'm not going to do anything with this except hold on to it and be able to look at it and see the pieces I did in November. And I'd like to do, if this goes as well as I expect it to, I'd like to do a book for each month when I do my little art bits. See, that looks much better now. There's a little white still there. A little edge where the paper curled up, and I see a little bit of green there. If I can open the book a little more, maybe I can get in there to get that. And there's a little bit of pink and purple showing there. Uh-oh. I mean, I really don't think you'll be able to see it once this is pressed down. I do want to get on those edges, though. It would help if I got the ink flowing a little better. There we go. So that one's done. This is what they look like when they're not done. Now, of course, I'm folding it. I got a little spot right there. I'm folding it while it's still wet, which is probably not a good idea. Maybe I should use paint in here instead of the marker, but these are paint pens. But it's kind of slick right there. So it may not be hanging on to it as good as it could. But like I said, this one's just for me. I could put some tape in there, like washi tape. But once again, I don't really want to draw attention to the spine. This is not holding on to this at all right there. So I may have to do something else than this. I'll do this first and maybe touch up with a little bit of black paint on top of this, some acrylic, and just let it sit open and dry a little better. That little piece right there kind of poked out. I just didn't like that one page. And it's good for fixing any little nicks on the edges from my crazy edges I did because I didn't do those correctly. But I've learned. Yeah, this is not holding on to that real well. It's a start. I think I'm going to have to go with just a brush load of black acrylic right down through there or something. Now that did pretty good. And then any little nicks. I am going to ink the edges. I'm going to ink the edges just to darken them up a little because I do like the antique feel that's prevalent in the art I did, the minis with the antique collage bits and pieces in there. So I'm going to darken the edges with this rich cocoa. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to go over this again. Now here's a little nick right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in with this. But the main goal is to focus on the art that I'm going to put on the pages. So that's the main thing. With this project. It's a good way to tie together what I've done for the month. And the book is, oops, that piece right there is, I'm going to pull that off because that's just going to fall off. We're just going to color this in. Kind of make it look like a little ripped edge, which it is. Color that in, and there's a spot right here. So this one will be a little bit more ripped looking. It's hard to get in that crevice. If I would have painted the book pages first, then that paint would be showing through. Okay, that's all of that. And of course, it's not perfect. I probably will need to do something else on that. But let me go ahead. These white edges, I want to ink these. Just to give it that little bit of a a distressed antique feel. darken those edges some. And I can do each page, but I'm being lazy about it and just trying to do it all at once. But I can go back and open each one of them. Of course, the spine will be covered. Yeah, I think the darkening the edges is a good idea. This thing may be running low on ink. And I'm trying to get any edges where the white is really showing. There we go. And actually come over onto the page if needed. Yeah, that black's not working at all in that crevice. So we're going to have to figure out something else. I could put a piece of ribbon in there. I need to dig and see if I've got a piece of ribbon. Just a little piece in the center of each one that might work. This one I didn't trim very good, I could tell. Nor did I do this one very good. So next time I've learned my lesson on that. The next book I make, I will do one page at a time. Or one side. One side at a time and not both at the same time. That was a mistake. Don't do that. Take your time with it instead of trying to rush it. Even darken these little corners a little bit. The spine is going to cover, fabric will cover the spine. So now the middle. It's too bad these papers wouldn't work well in there because they certainly look neat. But let me look around and see what I can come up with. Well, let's see what I found here. Digging in the closet in my studio here has found me. I have found this gold ribbon, which is a really nice antique gold. And I'm just wondering if that might work well in that crevice. This part right here has a sticky spot. So we're going to take that little spot off. But let's just see here. Of course, I didn't cut that straight, worth a darn. Let's try to cut it straight. Close. I still didn't cut that straight. Apparently, I can't cut anything straight. I think it's moving. That's the problem. Makes some interesting, fine little things. So if I cut this to the exact length and glue that down in there, that might be interesting. So let me see if I can get the length correct when pulled tight. Right there. Let's see if I can cut that straight. Now let me cut some others. So I'll need 6 of these. If they're not exactly straight, that's okay, because I can tell you right now they're not going to be. So I've got 3. You don't need to do this with more than 1 on here. That's a really, really pretty gold, this ribbon. I don't even know where I got this. I think I got it at Hobby Lobby. I think. One more, I think. Yeah, see, did this come from Hobby Lobby? I believe so. 100% polyester golden. All right. So, can I get that in there? And will it stick? I'm not sure. We can try one. Put a little glue in there and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, I don't know what I'll do. I don't need a whole lot in there. All right, let's see what happens. Of course, I'm probably going to have to trim it a little. Trying to put my fingernail in the crease as I bring it up. Probably need to, just as a precaution, put some wax paper there. I may need a little more glue than what I used there. And of course, my glue line isn't straight either, you know, because I can't do anything straight lines or whatever. And it's a little long. I may have to trim it. Yes, I may have to trim it. So let's fold it up and put it in there. With that crease, give me a piece of the wax paper. Fold this one down. Do another one. This may end up being the best idea yet. Kind of holds all that middle edging that's not so great. Try to get the extra glue out there. Get in that crevice. Another wax paper. There. I don't think this will have to dry too long. But I will have to trim those edges that are sticking out. Not looking forward to that. All this trimming business and we don't get along so well because I can't do anything straight. But I was determined I was going to make one of these books for my little art pieces. Oh, do I need one more piece? I have miscounted somewhere. So let's figure that out first. There we go. I don't know how I've miscounted. This gold is really pretty. And what does it say it's called? It just says golden. 2016. Merchant 41. Hobby Lobby. I did not buy this in 2016, though. I bought this recently. Probably within the last 4 or 5 months. I bought this. Try to get that excess glue. Get in that crevice. Wax paper. And one more. I like this glue, by the way, for everything. Fabrics, papers. All right, one more wax paper. And get in this crevice with my fingernail. All right, so that's done. I'll wash that glue off my hands. Now I'll need to glue this spine on. I almost wish I had this in a wider ribbon because, boy, that would make a pretty spine, wouldn't it? But, you know, I can double layer this. I can glue this on and then glue a piece of this over it if I wanted to. See, this stuff frays like that. And I don't know. Now, this is cut exactly, but I have to see where it is going to go to wrap around. So I don't want to put the glue right here where it will stick it and not open. So I need to put the glue back here. I'll use my finger, I'll put some on there like that. And let's line it up. I think I'm lined up. Let's see. The good thing is you can move it a little bit. All right. Now let's put some glue right here. Since this is the front, I'm trying to do a lot nicer line there. I'm going to pull that kind of tight, like so. Now this needs to sit and dry. See all that fraying? I don't like that. So I'm thinking of going over that with one of these ribbons on the front and the back. Because that's just really pretty. I'll try to get it as close as I can. Yeah, I almost wish I had this in a wider ribbon now because this is a very nice color, especially with the antique look of my pieces I've done, November colors. So let me just put a pretty good line of glue right here on this edge. Catch some of those frayed areas and settle them down. And I'm gonna, oops, I'm gonna get it outside the edge of that and then press down like that. Uh-oh. It doesn't matter if some glue gets on the piece like I just did there because it's going to dry clear. The only problem is I don't have a piece of wax paper to handy here. Yes, I do, somewhere. I have a piece of brown paper. Oh, no, that would stick. I need a piece of wax paper or something. Here's some. Here's a big piece. Move these out of the way because I'm going to flip this to get the back side here and do the same thing. See that ribbon fraying right there? That fabric, I mean. All right, let's do the same. Got the piece cut already. Let's do the same thing right there, right along that edge. After all this is said and done, it'll be time to attach the art in there and trim up these ribbons because they're a little long and I know they're going to have to be trimmed. I'm trying to straighten this up so it doesn't look all wonky, but I want it over the edge of that fabric. There, that looks good. Now I'm going to put my books back on top and let them sit for a little bit. I'm going to close up my glue so it doesn't dry up on me. And I'll come back shortly and we will see what that looks like and if it's time to glue the art inside. Okay, here we have another lesson learned. Outside, that's worked pretty good. It's not totally dry yet. I did manage to trim it up just a little bit. It does open and close. Inside, however, did not work well with the ribbon. The ribbon is not attached in the right spot. It's sliding. And frankly, when I go to pull it up, I get a big mess. But that's what's going to have to happen here, at least on these inside ones. So, back to my initial idea. If it had been a wider ribbon, it might have worked, but it's just not, it's not working there. And I'd rather just cut my losses on this. So do not do this. Now, if I had some dark color tissue paper, that would work kind of nicely. From what I understand, tissue paper in this middle part works pretty good. But I don't have any black. I have some lighter colors. And frankly, I'm just ready to be done with this part of the project. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take some ivory black paint. I'm going to take it with my finger and just kind of work it in here over that. I'm going to dry it and go to the next one, the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And see what happens with that. So after I do that little thing, then I will be back and we'll see how that works. Okay, still not happy with the black ink tints that I added. There are still white bits showing through. So I found this brown silk ribbon I had because I don't like this with these. I just don't. That's just not going to fly for me. I want it to look as nice as possible. Now, if I can attach that there, I think that will look pretty nice. I would have scrapped this whole thing at this point and said, forget it. But I've already attached my art onto the cover, so I really want to make it work. This ribbon is wider than the gold ribbon I tried before. And I realized what I did that I shouldn't have done, and that's put the glue in the middle. I need to put it on each side of the middle, then put this down and line it up and let each section dry completely before I do the next page. So this is my last resort with this one. I could collage over top of this and maybe cover this, but for this purpose, for what I'm trying today, this is my last resort. And so we're going to put a little bit of glue on each side of the center. And I may have got a little too much glue on there, so I'm going to take some of that off that end right there. And I'm going to take one of my ribbons after I get this glue off my hand. And I'm going to carefully hold each end and position it right over the spine. And try this. Instead of gluing right in the center, glue to each side of the center. Because I think this is what I did wrong. And we're going to let this fully dry before I try to close it. But if this takes, then I think the art will look very nice in there like that. Oh, I'm messing with it here. I need to let it stay flat and dry. If it will dry. I think it will if I leave it alone for long enough. And you can move it a little bit. We'll see. We'll see if it'll hold. It's, a lot of this is trial and error, especially when you haven't done something before and you're trying to figure out how to do it with your materials and your glues and, just trying different things. It's all about experimenting. That's the whole fun of it. It can be frustrating, though. And if this doesn't work, I'm probably going to be very frustrated that it didn't work. But I have another book. I can always start again. Unfortunately, I've already put the covers on this one. So that's another lesson. Maybe I should wait to put the covers on until the very, very end. But we're going to try this, and we're going to see how this dries up in a little bit and see if this will work a little better. Okay, I do believe this has worked. So that was the answer right there. Watch this. Closes up, stays in place. It's been drying about 30 minutes. It is not moving. So I'm going to go ahead and repair this one in the same way. And of course, this whole process is going to take a while because each one has to dry approximately 30 minutes or so. So I probably won't be able to finish this until tomorrow, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. I'm sure you can hear the big lawnmower outside. Today has been redneck city here with all the loud equipment. I'm over it. Now, you have a minute or two to scoot your ribbon when you do this. And this is the key, the wider ribbon. And letting each section dry. Well, that one I let dry about 30 minutes. And when you fold it up, it makes a little pouch right there, sort of in the middle, but it doesn't tie it down to the middle. So that's the key to doing this. I'm glad I figured that out. So when I go to do one for next month, I need some more of this wide ribbon. Let's see how wide this ribbon is. It's 1 inch wide, which is what I thought. So the gold ribbon I used on the in here in the beginning was just too thin. You know, and I really like that gold ribbon, so I'm going to go look and see if I can, while this is drying, and see if I can find some that is as wide as this. This is actually off of a gift type thing at some point, and I thought the ribbon was really pretty, so I saved it. And I'm glad I did, because it goes perfect here with these pieces. It's going to make a real nice presentation for my little mini art. So I'm going to finish the rest of these up, and once they're done, then it will be time to attach these, and they're going to be centered on each side, and I probably need to flatten them a little bit just so they'll adhere a little better. So I'll flatten them overnight under these books while I work on finishing this. And then maybe tomorrow we will be able to actually finish this little book. But I'm glad that you guys spent some time with me, and I know it's, you know, I probably should delete all the mistakes I made, but I think I've heard this before, that people like to see the mistakes and see how I work through them in case they make the same mistakes. And when you're doing something for the first time, if you're not following a class or specific instructions, you just know you've seen these, you want to do it, surely you can figure it out. And you can, but it may take some working with it and some fixing things. And it's frustrating sometimes, but I think the end result will be very, very nice in this case. And now I have learned, so for next time, I can maybe do things a little differently the next time so I don't run into this issue. But one thing I would like is some wide ribbon like the gold that's on the outside here, because that color is really pretty, and I think it will be a nice accent to most of my work, since I use gold in most of my work. And I really want the gold ribbon, but in the meantime, this one is saving this project. So lesson there, don't throw anything away. If you get a gift basket or a gift or something, and it's got a really nice ribbon around it, save that ribbon, because you can use that in your art someday. And I honestly never thought I would use this brown ribbon. It has been here for years, and here I am using it. So I'm really glad I saved it. Anyway, I'm going to shut this down for tonight, finish this up, flatten my little pieces here under these books to get them ready to mount in here tomorrow. Okay, I am back, and I thought I would show you how the ribbon turned out. It turned out fine. Every section opens and closes. And then I decided, since I had some extra pieces of this scrapbook paper, some strips, I decided to cut a strip to go down the middle of each of the opposite pages to kind of tie everything in together. And I decided to go ahead and mount my little paintings in there over those strips. And I think that looks really nice. I tested it first before I mounted anything to see what I thought about the look. And, you know, the strips are a little short, but who cares? And you see my little injury here from the paper cutter. Another one. I tell you what, these paper cutters are sharp, sharp. Let me show you this. Look at this. I don't know if you can see it. Right there. That scar. That's from where I had the blade up and I moved this hand under it and it caught it. Oh, it sliced it good. And then I sliced my finger this morning by accident doing the same thing. Just not being careful, moving my hand and arm under the blade. So if you're using a paper cutter, be careful. But I cut these a little bit short. I thought the 5-inch length would be good enough, but this book is, it would have been good enough this way, but this book is just a little over this direction, so it was a little short, but that's okay. This is just for me to display my November paintings. And it's just turned out so nicely. And I'm at the last page now, right here. And how I attach these, rather than glue, you know I'm all about my tape, if you've watched my other videos. Love my double-sided tapes. I used this regular double-sided Scotch tape for attaching these. I just made a strip for 2 strips for it and pushed it down on there. It's not going anywhere. And I was going to glue these, but I decided not to. I decided to go ahead and use my all-time favorite mounting tape. This is this thinner one. I have a wider one as well. But this helps them to stand out just a little bit and create kind of a shadow there. And I thought it would make the book too thick, which is why I was not going to use them. But before I put these in, when I stood up the book, like on a shelf, it did like this anyway. I didn't really want to make a closure because I want it to be able to be seen and picked up and just flip through without having to fool with a string. And so I'm going to go ahead and put together this last one, and I'm going to show you how I attach these. Now these are from one of the November palette art bits videos where I did the 3-inch squares. I did 2 of those videos, and this one, the color scheme ended up being my favorite, and then I ended up doing a larger square with the same color scheme in the same method. And so I used the larger squares for the covers on this 5-inch book. And then these are the 3-inch mini paintings, abstract, collage, mixed media paintings. And I just love the colors on here. I love the addition of the gold. I just love it. And I really wanted to showcase these. So I'm going to get my double-sided tape here, and I'm going to show you what I do for each of these. I cut 1 square for the middle, 1 square of tape for the middle of each mini painting. And then I cut 4 additional squares to cover the corners. And these are a little smaller than that one. They just need to hold those corners down. And this mounting tape, this is mounting tape. It's a little thicker. As you can see, it's a little thicker than this tape is. And so it helps the art stand out. And I really, really, really like that look. And I've done several pieces with the mounting tape in frames, and they're not going anywhere with the mounting tape. Once they're secured with this, they're not going anywhere. So I didn't feel a need to have to glue these and wait for them to dry. And the papers, the mini paintings are already kind of warped anyway, just because they're a little thick with all the elements I put on it. And I was afraid if I put stuff on the back and glued it down, I have to weight every page down and let it dry fully. And I was afraid this might warp maybe a little more, and I just didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to get this project done because it's time to start my December palette and do some designs with those colors. But I was really happy with the way these turned out, and I wanted to do some way to showcase these. And I have 3 more of these books in this size. And I have 2 other larger ones. But 3 more, that'd be 4. That would cover 4 months if I wanted to do the same procedure for each month that I'm doing my color palettes for. So I can go back to the thrift store and look for 4 more, 8 more, I'm sorry, 8 more that would be this same size book. So they'd be all similar. And I lucked out, these books have 12 pages. 12 mini paintings, 12 pages, plus the 2 covers. So that's what I'm looking for when I go back. I'll take my tape measure. I'm looking for a 5-inch book with 12 pages. And these are the kids or babies board books, so they're super, super thick. And you can just do anything you want to on them. And I just happened to have this scrapbook paper, which I had picked up, I think, at the thrift store as well. I had picked it up. And let me put this one out of the way. I'm trying to stay in camera where you can see. But I had picked up a package of these at the thrift store. And I thought they look really nice for my November color palette. They're pretty close. Where's my palette anyway? Here it is. I've been working with this all month. This one's a little dark, but that's okay. It helps set off the mini paintings really, really well. It's been fun working on a set palette. It took me half the month to realize, or actually more than half the month of working with it, to realize this is a more olive green. I originally thought it was a light brown, but now that I see it in different lighting, it's more of an olive green. So that was interesting. In that last video I did where I made the torn paper landscapes, I actually brought in that color. And that's the only November piece I did that brought in that color. So these don't really have it. These have the yellows, the browns. They have this orange color, which isn't in the palette, but it is in some of the elements that I used. So I felt okay to tie in with the orange with this, since it was in some of the map elements that I used. Throwing the dark purple in was really, really fun. Really enjoyed that. I did not try one with the bright pink. That's like your surprise color kind of thing. Kind of wild, outside the norm. I just didn't feel comfortable with that. I am not a bright pink kind of person, so I don't know. I just didn't want to do the bright pink. And then I determined, I stand up to do this because, and this is getting kind of thick now, but I want to line it up where I want it. I think I just hit the camera with my glasses. Kind of in the center of that strip, and then push down. There we go. So there's that one. And this is the final one. But I'm a huge fan of this tape stuff now. It works really good in things like this. It also works good when you're mounting them in frames with no glass. Helps them stand out. Kind of give it a shadow box look. I'm just eyeballing these. If they're a little crooked, they're a little crooked. And there is the last 2 pages. So there is my little book of my favorite mini paintings with my November palette. And now this can sit on my shelf, and if somebody comes to visit, I can show it to them. I don't plan on selling this or doing anything. This is just for me. And I'm really, really tickled with the way it turned out. But it's a great way to make a little themed book with a consistent theme throughout, is that using these little board books. Now, there's one thing I want to add onto the front of this, and that is this. This is cut out of this. That right there. That's one of my heavyweight books, an old dictionary that I use to weight down things that I'm gluing. And I don't tear pages out of this dictionary. I use it because it's heavyweight. I like it. It's really helpful to weight down things here in my studio. I have some other old dictionaries that have torn apart for ephemera and to add into pages and things like that. But this one I'm not tearing up. But I looked at one of my other dictionaries where I had torn out the pages and it didn't have November in the dictionary. And I'm like, what the heck? So I dug in this dictionary this morning and it does have the months in there. And I thought it would be cool to add this to the front cover so that it goes along with what I was doing, which was a November color palette. And I don't know if I want it. I think I want it down here on the bottom because I really like this and I don't want to take away from that. And this is all kind of similar. So I think I want it down there right across the bottom. Or I could mount it over here, but then you got to look at it sideways. Could mount it right there. I kind of like things in the center though. Don't really want it in the center there. And like I said, I don't want to take away from that fun pattern right there. So I think it's going to go right here. Now, obviously, with the book sticking up like this, it's not going to work to glue it that way. But the nice thing is, because of what I did to the spine in the video, I can get anything to lay flat. So I'm just going to take a small brush. I guess I'll take this one here. I think may be a little big. Let me get a little smaller one. That one's too long. I don't need much. I just want to get a little of my matte medium here and put that on the page here to help stick this down. And I did go with my brown ink pad and go around the edges of this cutout definition of November, just to give it that age look, since I'm all into the vintage and antique thing. I wanted to mention, because I did the 12 minis, 3-inch size, using a 9x12 piece of paper when I made the originals minis. And then I went to the larger size and I did 6x6. Well, I only got a few of those out of that 9x12 sheet. I think I got 2, 4. I think I got 4. I think. I can't calculate right now, but I used 2 of them for this book, but I still have a couple left of the larger ones if I do want to frame them and make something to go on the wall. But right now, I'm going to take some of this matte medium, if I can get the top off. I'm just going to see if I can just dip my brush in the bottle here and grab some of it. Yeah. I'm just going to put some on the back. And then pick it up. Put it on there. Line it up where I want it. Press it down. I'm going to get some more matte medium on this brush. And just go over this to seal it in place. And it will, the matte medium looks milky white, but it'll dry clear. And I think I got all that. So, and I got a very dirty brush now. I gotta take that and wash it, since I don't have any water in here at the moment. So now I will let that sit there and dry until that's dry, and then this project will be done. And I really am liking the way it turned out. I really do like the ribbon in the middle. That worked out very well to cover that little middle area. I did like this gold ribbon I put here. I like this color. I'm gonna go see if I can find that color in this width from Hobby Lobby. That's where I ended up getting that. But that shade of gold, it really goes well with what I do with my gold. So I think I'm gonna go look and see if I can find that in a wider strip like this, because I'd like to use that in the middle. This was just an accidental ribbon I had from a gift. So I'm gonna let this sit here and dry, and call my November month done and move on to my December palette, which will be some other colors to work with. But I've enjoyed really forcing myself to stick with some certain colors and sticking with the theme. And I think I might need a little more matte medium down to push that down. I got a little bit here. It's kind of bubbling up a little bit. Let's just use the brush and kind of roll over it, push it down. I don't want to stick my finger on it and mess it all up. So I have really enjoyed this. I will take a few pictures of this to put at the beginning and the end of the video, so you could see it up close and personal. I know the camera doesn't show, the video camera doesn't show all the details and everything like the regular camera will. So I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me during the month of November and watching me do these crazy projects that I just kind of came up with. But now I have a direction, I think, of where I want to go for December and the other months. I'm thinking the same thing. Board books, need some kind of material for the spine, some ribbon. I will need some other background papers for the pages, which, you know, depending on the colors for that month, I don't know if I have them. So I have to dig through. I don't have a lot of scrapbook paper. I pick some up every so often if it's on sale. But I'll just have to dig through what I've got and see if I've got something that'll match. Or I could always paint the book page. But I really do like the way this worked out with the strips alternating. That is a thing I would like to do again for another month. And I'm going to see if I can find some more of these board books to put them in. Because wouldn't it be cool at the end of the year of me doing these months would be to have a book like this for every month. I just think that would be so cool. And this is just a personal thing I just want to do for me. It allows me to experiment with collage, mixed media, different materials, inks, paints, and to force me to stick with a certain group of colors. And it allows me to use some of my vintage ephemera. And so it's kind of a win-win for me. And I hope if you guys are playing around with it, you'll enjoy doing some things like this too. Doesn't have to do a monthly thing like I'm doing. Could do just whatever you want to do. Could do a spring and autumn, you know, seasonal. Could do a certain theme. One of my themes I would choose if I was doing a theme would be birds. And I do have a lot of bird books here in ephemera that I could do something like this with birds. I really, despite my frustration in this video over this book as we went along, and me doing this wrong and that wrong and this wrong and that wrong, I do feel like I worked through it in a good manner, and I feel like I have come up with a really good final product. Not product, but final art piece. I'm really pleased that I did this little board book. I got the idea of doing one from somebody else's YouTube video, and then I started watching other YouTube videos on how to do them. And of course, I don't take notes. I just retain whatever I retain, and then I work through it as I make my own mistakes. So I'm really pleased with how this turned out, though, and now I want to do it again. And it gives me something to focus on that is artistic in a small way without going so big and spending a whole lot of money, and using some things I have. And that's why I started this whole Art Bits series. And, you know, I get off track and I'll do a decoupage thing here and there or something else here and there. But I'm still doing these with the monthly palettes. I find this very challenging. So I'm going to try to keep it up. And I hope y'all will continue to hang out with me as I do so. Thanks for watching. You guys have a great day. And I will see you in the next video.